Okay guys, we're streaming live now, so you can go to YouTube, pull it up. Attendance is being passed out, starting at the side of the room. Make sure you sign it so that you are not marked absent. So, in the 90 or so minutes we have, I thought let's make some kind of Fallout-like game, right? In spirit of this great day, this great, wonderful day. So let's take suggestions on what we want to make that would make a Fallout sort of environment game. Now we don't have a lot of props to work with, but we'll do our best. So what? Oh, if you go to uploads. Yeah, so if you want to go to the live stream, go to .war Games, click on the channel, and then click on uploads, and the first video is going to be the live stream. It's like live now. It'll look like my screen up here. What do you want for Fallout game? First of all, we'll be using the first-person shooter template, so make sure you select that. We're starting a new project. I'm going to name mine Fallout. So I was thinking right off the bat, we probably want some widget to handle to be like our Pip-Boy Fallout. No, actually, I'm going to write this down at the desk. And that way, once we have enough ideas about what we want to develop, jump right in. Okay. All right, we're making a Fallout game. We want to make some kind of Pip-Boy widget, right? We want to make maybe, I think I want to show you sort of the post-processing to make an environment look a certain way, kind of look apocalyptic, even without using props, just by using the settings on your camera. What else? What else is a Fallout game that we like?
A shelter, like an underground shelter.
An underground shelter? You could do that. Okay.
No vegetation, just like dead plants.
Dead plants? Okay. All right, dead plants.
Ooh, like make the grass structure like more yellowish.
Oh, I like that. Okay, we can do that. Okay, take grass.
Like a sea of blood.
Yes.
Make it dead. Cool. What else? Destruction and agony. Sound effects. Okay, what about sound effects? How to make what app sound? Materials?
So,
Geiger counter. Oh, I like that actually. Oh, I like that a lot. You can then make, yeah, like in certain zones and your rads go up.
Wait, which template did we?
First person.
First person?
Yeah, first person. I like, on the note of sound effects, we could also try and go for like making a radio, you know, with channels.
static.
Yeah. Okay, so I think that's a good list that we'll attempt to run through. So I've got make some sort of Pip-Boy kind of widget, post-process. Those are my suggestions. You said some underground shelter, so going into the ground sort of deal. Dead plants, and taking things like the materials that normally look lively and grassy and making them look dead. Do the material with sound effects, so when you walk on a certain material, then it has it shows you that sound. So the idea there being that if you're walking on like walking on stone, you have stone footsteps. When you're walking in grass, it's like mushier. Don't know if we'll do that today, just because we don't have the sound effects readily available. But that would be something called with physical materials is what the system called for that. Maybe we'll get to it. I like the idea of doing a rad zone where if you go into it, it's all irradiated, like your rads go up, and then when you leave, it stops adding it to you. and then doing some sort of radio. So, not saying we're going to get to all of it, but let's attempt. And I think we'll go out of order in how we attack these. So, you should all have your editor open. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to click this button in filters, to the left of filters again, just so I can see all my folders here. And if you haven't played this, you can go ahead and play. This is what the shooter looks like. Physics. So it's good. Fallout's a first-person game, so we'll do it like that. Before we get into it, I did want to show you guys some really cool things that you can access, not here, unfortunately, because the way that the computers are set up, but at home that you don't want to neglect. So one that I pulled up is if you go to Epic Games Launcher, and do I have it pulled up? Yeah, right here. They have something that's free. Again, this is I said this the first week. Epic Games has a bunch of free assets that are not only just free for you to like mess around with, they're free for you to use in any project you sell. Sell anywhere. Steam, Xbox, what have you. And they're high quality AAA assets. And this one could not be more Fallout like. And look at this, it's called Soul City. It's completely free. All these objects, the materials, everything. And you get it in Epic Games Launcher. You could either click the free tab or hit the search and look up Soul City. It's real simple. I'll put it in my game, actually. I'll just show you right now because I can do it on my computer. I mean, all this is just so Fallout-like. It's just like amazing. That, right? How I do it is I'll go to Epic Games Launcher. I'll start from the beginning. I'll go to Epic Games Launcher, right? That's that program that comes with Unreal. It's actually needed to install Unreal. So first, whenever you download Unreal, it downloads this first, and then you download Unreal over here in Library. This stuff, right? You click Unreal, you pick your version. And so if you have this stuff installed at home, you'll do this. But you have this Marketplace tab here, and wait for that to load. You can see right here, Prime Projects, also all the stuff I've gotten from Marketplace. I have quite a large amount of things. Obviously, my eyes on that, right? And you can either go search up Soul City or hit the free tab. And you'll see also characters too. You see it says Epic Games, Epic Games. That means it's free. Right? And these are usually from games they've actually developed. So this is from Paragon, right? There's other assets I've shown before from the Infinity Blade series, which is a mobile game. So all of these are characters you can literally use in a game. And you could take it and then modify it so that take this guy and make him look. He already looks kind of like a General Grievous sort of thing. You can modify it so that people don't recognize him as from Paragon, or you could use him as is. Good Davy Jones lookalike there. Soul Cave's really good too. So these are both from the same kind of pack. The idea. So the one I was talking about for Soul City, Soul Cave's really nice. It's more cave, natural environments. This one's a deep city, a sci-fi kind of futuristic, decrepit city. So I'd click on that, and then it's the same screenshots that I was showing you a second ago. And what I would do is I would hit Add to Project. Then it says, what project do you want to add it to? And I choose Fallout_1, Add to Project. It's as simple as that. It's going to download it and install it. And I think this one is about 1 gigabyte, so it'll take a minute. But you'll end up having, so you can see it's already started. It has a folder in here in my project, and things are already downloading to it. So Soul City, go to Environment, Materials, Meshes, Textures, see if the materials showed up yet. So the materials have already shown up. So this concrete, you can drag into here. Give it a second to load. Maybe I want to put this concrete, high-tech concrete under these boxes here. That looks cool. Yeah. Yeah.
I downloaded a waterfall texture. How would I get that on display or like in my game?
So good question. So a waterfall texture. So you download a texture, but you want it to act like a waterfall, right? So to do that, you would most likely want to use something called a particle system, which I haven't gone over too much, but some of you have seen it in the sense that you've dragged out fire and you've seen it has this fire, this a smoke particle that comes with Unreal. This Soul City one has water stuff in it, really cool. I'll show you that right now. It's going to be in effects, particles, water, and they have a waterfall actually, so waterfall crest. So give it a second to render. And most likely, so your texture is not going to be your answer if you're trying to do a waterfall like this effect. I'll make this big so you guys can see in a second. You're going to want a particle, and you could either take a pre-made particle like from this and then call it a day, or take a pre-made particle and then modify it. So you can see what's going on here. Maybe this needs to be made a little bit smaller for the real effect. Yeah, that looks a lot better. Also really good is a rain particle here. And then if it's just great. So yeah, so textures.com, if you're getting textures and downloading them, mainly that's going to be used for materials. Now, materials can be animated so that they actually have they look like they're moving. So there's nothing keeping you from, in fact, well, there are water materials, like there's 2 in our starter content, that do just that. There's stuff on Epic Games too. If I type in, actually it's going to be in the Learn tab, I think. There's a bunch of really cool water materials in one of these that flow at different rates, and you can change your settings. And those are materials. But if you look at their graphs, it's a little bit more complex. So I wanted to show you Soul City and all that stuff, and like I said, the Epic Games Launcher has a bunch of stuff like that. This, again, I won't be using it too much because you guys don't have it, so what's the point? But this Soul City has a bunch of Fallout-esque, and it doesn't have to be Fallout. Just the theme of today is Fallout, right? But it could be Blade Runner-esque. It could be, I mean, you can really do anything with anything. Like if I go into this building stuff, you've got these crazy cool things. From things like this, which could be as simple as like subway stairs in a Fallout game, right? To things, I don't know what that is. To slums and things like these futuristic looking stuff like that. And that's more of a facade because the back won't have anything. Where they use for backgrounds and stuff. Things like this. And by the way, this isn't like cheating in any way. What will normally happen is in a game studio, you'll have an art department and you'll have a department that's responsible for in-game development. And these two will communicate, but it's not like the people who are doing the level designing will be doing their own modeling. It's not really how it works. It's not efficient. You'll have the art department producing 3D models like this. And basically, they usually do it in kits, right? So they go, okay, this is the subway environment kit. And so the art department gives, whatever it might be, 60 3D objects, 60 meshes with all the textures and materials all preset up to the level design department. And the level design department will use those 60 meshes to build all the subways and all of the, underground interiors. And it's their job to get creative with that. And if they have a special request, like, hey, we really need this special weapon at the end of this big boss fight, then they might send a request to the art department saying, hey, we don't have anything like that in here. What can you do? And then they might make something custom. But generally, even in a production studio, this is what happens. Is it's, as a level designer, if your focus is level design, not all of us our interest is that. But as a level designer, you'll be given basically, here's your library of assets to use. That's what you have to use. Get creative. And so, and they do, because you can see I can take this asset, and this could be a fan, or this could be a storm drain, or this could be the top of a library or something, or this could be some kind of a wall decoration that goes across and repeats across the top of an exterior government building or something. It could be, like I said, a manhole or something that someone can go into. You can get really creative with that sort of thing. It could be a washing machine. There's all kinds of stuff you can get really smart with. And if you notice games and study games like Fallout 4 and stuff and Fallout 3, you'll notice them repeating things all the time. I don't know which classes I say which things in, but a classic example of that is in Skyrim. There is a dresser, and the dresser is like a tall dresser for putting things in, and it appears in like every interior sort of level scene, right? Usually in the Draugr tombs and stuff, but it appears where the level designers, they sink it almost 80% into the floor, so you just see the top of it, because when it's sunk into the floor, it looks like a perfect like table shelf. And no one in the art department developed just a low to the ground table shelf, which would be useful for having, soul gems and daggers and potions just resting on it, and books and whatever. No one made one. And then it'd be the case where no one really needed to make one. They just used the dresser. And so you'll see, if you look at, you can only see this not as a player, but if you open the editor for Skyrim, all these dressers sunk way into the ground, and the rest of it, the dresser is dangling in the area that the player can never see below the floor. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, because the levels to the player, they just see a short little table. They don't have to know it's a full dresser sort of thing. Why'd they do that? Well, sometimes it's faster and cheaper to just be creative as a level designer than to go into a special request with the art department. So anyway, keeping that in mind. So I wanted to show you that. Yes, I want to show you textures.com. There's a couple other things. There's like Turbo Squid is an area for downloading 3D models. So if I want like this T-Rex here, I don't know if it's animated, probably not. I could download it, right? And then getting into Unreal is a little bit of a pain. It's not as simple as downloading things from the Epic Games Launcher, where it does it all for you. Getting into Unreal, usually you'll bring it in and then it'll be really small, because usually these 3D modeling programs use a different scaling than Unreal, et cetera, et cetera. But that's also a thing. And then also wanted to show you this. This is a really good asset. If you go to Google Kenny, right? Kenny's the guy's name, and assets or whatever. It's pretty famous, this website, and he's got a bunch of game assets that are free, 3D models. A lot of them are like the low poly sort of stuff, so depending on what you're trying to do. This is good like if you're making a sim sort of game, right? And they're totally free to use in any project. But he also has really good stuff for like UI, right? So if I'm looking at here, I've got all this. Like this stuff can be used as UI in your game. Okay, can I get Arabert Garcia? Thank you. This is go see Mrs. Stewart. Yeah. Okay, so I've got my Fallout project, and we're gonna hit play and all this. Let's start with the grass thing. So everybody get in your starter content, go to grass material. I'm just gonna type in grass. I'm gonna drag it into my world, and ooh, that looks ugly. I'm gonna use a landscape. So if you want to join me here, I'm gonna create a landscape for our scene. So hit the landscape mountain. You get all this green area. Since it is a Fallout game, I want it to be a bit larger. So in this section size, it says 63 by 63. I'm gonna change that to a higher number, make that easier for you to see. So where it says 63, the 63 down here, I'll change it to 127. Now I'll change it to a 255. And then I'll hit create. You can choose the landscape material on there, or you could just go back into the place mode and then click on your landscape and drag that grass onto its material. Oh, I did that wrong. Wait, we want. Now this grass is too lively. We want it to look dead, so let's double click it. And we're going to get into our material editor, which is the stuff we did yesterday. So even if you haven't dragged onto your landscape, go ahead and join me in the material editor here. And the grass is a lot more complex than you would think, right? But don't worry, we don't have to touch any of this stuff to make it look dead looking. We just want to hang around right here at the end of the grass stuff, at the end of the material results node. Okay. And all I want you to do is right here between base color and this thing that says lerp that connects right to base color, we're going to drag out from lerp, type in the word multiply, select multiply. And then this channel on the right from the multiply, that's our output of whatever we're multiplying. Plug that into base color now. And then what's left is we want to put something into our B channel. So drag off of the B channel. And I want you to type in the word vector and choose vector parameter. Sounds complicated. All that is a color. That's all it is. Choose vector parameter. Let me get this here. Mine defaults to black. In the details panel with that selected, I want to change it to like white or something. And you'll notice it wants you to name it. And if you don't name it, it just says called none. But in the details panel, you can name it at the top there, which says parameter name. We're going to name that tint. So spell it T-I-N-T. And what this allow us to do is allow us to tint the color of our total material. This is something I do with almost all the materials I do because it's just so useful. Now, if you set it to white, which I want you all to do, it's just going to look the same as it normally does. I want us to do that because we're actually going to control the tinting of this outside of this material graph. By doing this, we've just done basically the blueprint code that allows us to then tint it later. So, do I need to leave that up for a minute? Yeah. Come over there. Sure. Content and grass. Just type it in. Double click that. That's our material. Here. So move around here. You hold down our mouse button. So drag out from blur. I'm going to drag out from before a while. Start from the multiply. Yeah, the end of this multiply results in output, which is Livestreaming right now. And then we want to multiply it by something, so drag out from B. And choose that pattern. And choose vector parameter. And then type the parameter. Color. So that's what we want. And I want you to change that color. Instead of black to white. And then name it tint, T-I-N-T. Okay, so you've named it tint. You're multiplying it. As I said, I do this with almost all my materials. You'll see why in a second. It's awesome, and it's kind of it's something I don't see other people do. I don't know if many people know that they can do this. But once you've done that, you're gonna hit save. Remember, guys, you do have the live stream, so if you need to go back, you can see this. Go to the front of Unreal here, and my material is still compiling on my landscape. And I want you to find the material in your content browser, the bottom here. And what we're going to do is we're going to do what's called creating a material instance. I think we did this yesterday, right? We did this where we were able to make something like shiny or not, right? So right-click your grass material in the content browser. Just right-click it. And when you right-click the material, you have this option. It's at the very top. It says Create Material Instance. So click that. And once you have the instance, you don't have to just leave it whatever it auto-names it. Double-click it, and you get this material editor. This is different. There's no wires here. This is a simplified version. This is the version for editing material instances. And anything that you set to be any parameters, right, our vector parameter, you can see in here and change, including, you'll notice we have tint. You made that. And now you can change a tint from here. What's really useful about this is this will change instantly with no compiling, no loading time. So I click this, I gotta check mark it, so check mark it, and then click the color, and you can change the color of that grass immediately.
Hey, bro. You did it.
Nice.
And there are actually other settings in here that came with our grass that we can use, like dead grass color. So that determines what color the dead grass is. So maybe I make this like a brown kind of thing. So that looks a lot different. Now I have two different versions of grass. And if I wanted to have many different versions, what I do is I would just duplicate, right-click and duplicate that material instance, and then I can keep editing each instance. And maybe this time I'm going to have like a, I don't know, a yellow or grass instead of a brown. Now I've got these different varieties, and I can just drag those different varieties onto objects in our scene. So I'm going to choose my brown grass. I'm going to drag that onto my landscape. So now my landscape is going to be a dark brown. So in the spirit of making a Fallout game, there's a couple materials that'll really help us out that are going to look perfect. My favorite would be this M Tech panel. Material called M Tech panel. It does a great job of being on anything. So if you drag that out onto any of this stuff, this will look more like either vault stuff or like in the Institute kind of stuff. So you could either look that up by typing in tech or just going into materials. You do have something called bush in here. Yeah. And so if you could pull a bush, but it is far too green, right, for our purposes. Well, it has a material on it. If I double click that material, what do you think we could do to it? Yeah, we could tint it. We could tint it something. So I'm going to do that. If you type in bush. So when you search, guys, you always want to make sure the content folder on the left is selected. That way, when you're typing stuff into this middle bar here, it's looking through your whole project. So that's what I always make sure this is selected. But then in the middle there, I type in bush, and there's something called SM bush. Right? Double click SM bush, you get the static mesh editor. We're not going to do anything here except it shows us our material on the right. After you double click that material, it'll open up its material editor. That's what I did. So once you're in the bush material editor, just do what we already did. We're going to drag it where the texture goes into base color. We're going to interrupt that and put in a multiply and make sure the result of that multiplication goes into base color. So I'll do that. I think you know how to do that. I'm not going to explain it. I will do it on the board, but I want you to do it. Make sure that vector, that color you pull up, you set it to white by default. Because if it's set to black by default, it's not going to look, you're not going to really be able to see anything. I'm going to find that material, and I'm going to right click it. I'm going to create a material instance, open the material instance, change my tint to whatever suits me. And then I'm going to find that static mesh. It should be just in a tab we pulled up of the bush. And that thing, the material where we double clicked it to open it before, here we could also just change what the standard material of the static mesh is. So just change it in the drop down. Look for your bush instance, the ones you tinted. Change that there. So mine's a black kind of dark brown. So now by changing that drop down, by default, my bush uses this other bush material, the one I just tinted, instead of the base one that it came with. Then it's saved. Now every bush I drag into my world, SM bush, right, is going to have that look to it, that tinted leaf look. Next, what I think we'll do is let's make some sci-fi-like props that will work in this world. In our props folder, we have actually two things that already look very Fallout-ish. You have SM couch and SM chair. I mean, these look like something that would be in the vault, right? So you could go ahead and, if you want, I don't know whether you're making a vault environment or an outside environment, or maybe we're kind of making both and we'll blend the two. But these look great for that. They're even like that yellow kind of look. But what I want to do is I want to get some of these seats out, and you can feel free to follow along or make your own thing. I'm just going to make I want to make kind of a car prop, like one of those futuristic flying cars that sort of crash into the world. So every car has 2 seats in the front, so I'm going to grab these 2 seats, put them side by side like that. And let's see what else we're working with. And we are working very, very little. There's something called SM table round here. I think that could look like a good futuristic steering wheel. So if I drag that out here, and then I just rotate it just exactly where kind of a steering wheel will be, and I'm going to make it smaller. And I think I'm happy with that. I'm going to take that SM couch, and that'll be my back seats. So put that in the back of here. Let's see what else we can do. So that's in props. If I go into architecture folder, what do we got there? Nothing too interesting. So one thing I'm a fan of doing is I'm gonna grab a sphere. That's just out of the modes panel. It's a basic sphere. I'm gonna smash it vertically, so it smashes like that. So you're flattening it like a pancake. Then I'm gonna elongate it on one side, elongate it a little bit on the other side too. So we sort of form this kind of 50s-esque, Jetson-esque thing like that. Attendance, cool. Guys, you have attendance? Passing around, done? You can kind of see where I'm going with this. Now, by the way, we haven't been changing the materials of this yet. I don't want my car probably to be this ugly kind of yellow. It's good for a vault, but it's not good for a crashed, sci-fi radioactive powered car. So I'm gonna put this however I like it. I guess I like it kind of there. And then I'm gonna duplicate this flattened sphere. Remember, you could duplicate by you could do Command C or Command V, Command C, Command V. Or what I like to do is hold the Alt key and drag, and then it gives me a copy. And that saves you a step because you'll be dragging in the direction you want it to go anyway. So that's a good level design trick. I'm gonna just put this sort of in the back. Now I like sort of how that looks in the back, but I don't like how this doesn't connect in any way. So what I think I'll do is I'll drag a box out for that back part, and I'll make just a box that connects. So I'm going to change the material. It's all white right now. I'm going to change it to that tech panel. You'd say I'm either going to do tech panel or like chrome or something that looks futuristic. You see the material really does change how something looks. These chairs, I'm not a big fan of the way the material looks on them. Maybe I want to give them, that's too metally, doesn't look like something someone would sit in, but that sort of does. Is that? What? I'm losing students? I'm going. Okay, are we going too fast?
No, you're going fine. It's just I can't focus.
You can't focus? Okay. All right, we'll move on. No, I get it. Maybe we're spending too much time in the car. So that's our car. Well, if I would like to complete it, and it's very difficult to model. Again, like I said, doing anything organic that isn't, at right angles in Unreal in terms of modeling, it's very difficult to be done. So if let's say I had this finish, right, just a refresher, I would select everything. That's by control clicking. And then I would right click, and I would do merge actors. And then I'm going to name it SM_car_01. And now I have that as a 3D object. I can drag it into my world, just like this. I can crash it, by rotating it like this and sync it into the landscape a little bit, that sort of thing. And then maybe add a smoke particle or something. Smoke, type that in. We have some smoke particles.
The car was still smoking.
It's the magic of radioactivity.
Yeah, but it's been like 1,000 years.
200 years.
200 years and the car is still smoking.
Yep. So anyway, so that's that. Let's look at our list right here. We have dead plants, take grass. We made the grass material stuff. Sound effects, we have like 2 come with starter content. Let's start away. Let's do the post-process because that doesn't take too long. So everybody in the modes panel, type in the word post, P-O-S-T. And you see this thing called post-process volume. Drag that into your world. And you want to scale it because it's come out as a tiny little box. You want it to be big. Essentially what this do is you can change the color and the tint of the whole world and do all kinds of effects like lens flare, blurring the camera, anything, as long as the player is inside this cube, inside this box. So you want to make it as big as you want for those changes to take place.
Or L.
And once you've made that post-process big, in the details panel of post-process, you have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of options. The main one I want you to do is type in tint, T-I-N-T. And then, yeah. 3 students are gone. What do you mean? They died. Okay, so anyway, for Stanley.
Wait, raise your hand if you're still in the lesson.
Let's do a rain check. Let's check up on the groups. How are we doing? Are we getting lost or uninterested? Huh?
Like Danielle got lost, and then Sasha got lost, and then I got lost, and then you got lost, and then
Or it's not working.
oh no! Wait, it was supposed to,
Alright.
it was supposed to be default to white.
Oh, Looks like most people are able to follow along.
I'm getting set up.
What?
I'm getting set up. Give me a second. Whoa. Set up here.
Everybody wants to bed.
So there's so many things I can show you and keep showing you. I just wish we had assets. I wish we had sound effects. I wish we had things to work with for building this environment. But I do want to show you this. So with this post process, you can tint your scene, and so I'm going to tint mine to like a green, and now you can see it already feels a lot more Fallout-y just with that tint.
What? No, like, look, I'm trying to get to the pet, so fast.
What I'm doing? Oh wait, it's a question on what I'm doing? Okay, so I'll do this step again. What it is, it's the post-process volume. Post-process volume, guys, is a box you put in your world, and as long as your player is in this box, you can change anything on its camera settings. Okay? This, by the way, I've done this with other classes. This is how you make underwater effects. So with other classes, I've made it so it's like, okay, make a lake. It looks like a lake. And then when the player runs into the lake and he goes below the lake, I make it blue, dark, murky, and blurry. Right? Same exact process. Okay? It's the post process. So that immediately gives us the Fallout tone. Immediately using this post process. Because I'm tinting it to this radioactive green. So all it is you in the modes panel on the left, you drag out, you type in post, P-O-S-T, you drag this thing called post process volume. It's a tiny little cube. You use the scale tool to make it big. And wherever the camera is, and wherever the player is, if the player is inside that box, those settings will apply. Like I left my box, so I'm back to normal. But if I fly, even though I'm in editing mode, it still applies. I can see normally. If I fly into the box, it goes to dark Fallout look. Out of the box, not. In the box, yes. Okay. So once you have your box in there, with your box selected, right? So you can see its details. Just type in the word tint and change the scene color tint. Yeah, scene color tint. And the reason we use a box is this allows us to have different boxes in different areas of our world that tint things differently, that have different effects. We can have several post processes in a level. One general one that makes everything kind of green and stuff. One for when you go underwater that makes it, it's only underwater, murky stuff. One so that when you're in a back alley, it's a scary zone, so you make things go dark. You increase the contrast. So you can have multiple of these post-process volumes into your world. And you definitely want to utilize them because this is how you take a scene that you designed and you really make it a scene that the player feels. You don't want people playing your video game to go, oh, wow, this level designer did a good job. You don't even want them to think that there was a level designer. You want them to think that they're really there. Post-process is a huge component in doing that. It's a feeling tool. It's a tone tool. And it affects everything in the level. How are you guys doing back there with the post process? Are you working on it?
Yeah, but like I don't think it's working. Let's take a look.
Oh, it's working for you.
Yeah, but like when I get out of it, isn't it supposed to go back?
Yeah, it should go back when you get out of it.
Out of it.
Here, maybe this is good.
Oh my gosh.
So it is because type in the word bounds. We have a tint, BOU. And so if your post process has a setting that says unbound, that means it affects the entire world. So if you want it, on older engine versions, I guess it might be unbound by default.
Yo, imagine having like 50 post-process volumes. Put it like next to each other, make them all different colors, so wherever you move, it's just flashing lights.
I don't know if that would work. I think one would take over. One would take over. It would default to one. But you can achieve that effect with other ways. There's other things in the post process. You can type in the word blur, and I think it's called Gaussian blur. You can change motion blur. Oh no, depth of field. If you want to blur your player, You type in depth, and then in the depth of field category, you choose method. You change method from bokeh to Gaussian, and then you get a blurriness. This is how I do underwater stuff. And then I have that. You can type in lens and get lens flares, bloom, intensity. So this is how much the light will, like right here. This is good for a dreamlike scene. I increase the bloom amount. This is also what's sort of going on when in Fallout 3 when you first leave the vault, right? Everything's so bright, it's like pure white, and then it slowly fades to where you can see again because your eyes are getting adjusted. That's through post-process. Same idea.
How do you make it rainy?
Well, I have it raining because I added a particle from the Soul City pack.
Oh yeah.
But your computers don't let you do that. Although if you want to try, you could Google it. And here's the thing. If you Google Soul City like I did, you can hit download, and then it says Open Epic Games Launcher, and then you click it. And maybe that'll work. Maybe that'll get around the administrator stuff. You can try that.
I told him not to breathe, but he keeps breathing. Oh.
So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to go over an example. Okay, so this is going to be, I think it's going to be a little bit too complex to do a step-by-step, and I might lose you on the way. But I'm going to attempt, and I've never done this before, I'm going to attempt to code basically what would be the foundation of a radio that our player has on the character that he can switch between. All right? Your radio station. Again, I'm going to do this on the board and on the stream so that you see it, but I'm not going to explain and weight everything with everything I'm doing. So now I'm going to do radio. Grab the player, edit blueprint, open blueprint editor. I have my variables. I'm going to hit plus variable. I'm going to name these radio songs. And then variable type, I'm going to change this from Boolean to... Yeah, go for it.
People.
Oh, ask the class a question?
Yeah.
Wait, is this a revolution happening beneath my nose? What is going on?
Okay.
All right, Fidel. Fidel needs to speak.
Raise your hand if you're gone. And I know who's gone. I'm gone. Who else is gone?
Be honest.
You're gone.
I'm not going to judge. Be honest.
Who's gone, guys?
Be honest. Raise your hand.
Rebellion. You're gone. I know those two are gone. Julio's gone. He's gone.
Okay, the majority's here then, looks like.
Are you gone, Crystal? I know he's gone. I know he's gone.
They're
He's
not raising
going
their
along.
hand, though.
I know, but I know he's gone because you can see everything back there.
Because you can see. All
Just
right.
know half of us are gone.
Okay, so guys, listen. I can work with you. Maybe it's what's in the air. Maybe it's because we all spent all night playing Fallout 76. I don't know. No? All right. What do you want out of the class? Literally, listen. Do you guys want? We can break into lab time, and I can work on my project to get stuff done. Yeah, we would vote for that. I can cover topics. I can continue the lesson like I'm doing, or I can answer other questions, or you guys can make suggestions one by one, or like I said, lab time. Lab time. All right, guys, all in favor of breaking out into lab time now? Raise your hand. I need a majority vote, otherwise I'm going to continue my freaking lesson. All right, there you go. Now the hands come up. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4. You'll get cut twice. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So you just showed up. I don't know if your vote counts. Okay, you guys want to break in the lab time? All right, we'll do that. I'm going to turn up the Fallout music. You guys are free to work on Unreal or work on whatever you got to do. Yeah, question? This one comes up when you try to do the download. Or wait, what is it?
I just say yes.
Oh, that music.
If you want to see
All right. That'll do for that.
Oh yeah. This is an extended period. So
Yeah.
like when I saw it, I was like, 8 or 9.